Welcome everybody, welcome. Please let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Check, testing, 1, 2, check, check. I'm just waiting for Mary from Blessed Crochet to come up. I hope everyone's having a blessed day today. As you know, I'm Alfonso with ASblindmadeproduction. So, welcome. We're doing a virtual concert tonight. So I'm going to spice up things a little bit differently. So I'll be playing, like, I'll be playing some of the old time Western music, old time country gospel. So how are y'all doing? Let me know if you on the chat if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Hopefully I'm not coming out too distorted or anything like that. Because like I said, sometimes I have difficulty with the sound, but I don't know why. Yeah, I know I could hear myself okay. I don't have any problem hearing myself, but it's just like on the other end. Sometimes people tell me, oh, they can't hear me, or I'm too loud, or I'm like people on the other end tell me, oh, I can't hear me, that they can't hear me. Like it's too low. Like and on my end, I'm hearing myself perfectly fine. It's just like, all right. Alright, perfect, thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm coming out clearly because, like I said, I had issues in the past where the levels weren't right and one end at the receiving end, which I unfortunately don't have control over that. Sometimes YouTube does, or StreamYard does kind of alter the levels on the audio on the receiving end, and that's what I happened to find out. Which I really don't have no control over that. I don't know why, but it just happens to be like sometime with YouTube, StreamYard, or any other streaming platform, they do change your audio levels on the other end, and without you even knowing. So it's kind of disappointing there because if the person watching your live, can't hear you, that kind of creates a problem, big time. So I don't know why. Like I said, like I said, it's very unfortunate that this does happen, but down the road, if it does happen, during the live, please let me know so I could try my best to fix it on my end. But like I said, but I can't really make any guarantees on fixing the sound. I can only do so much on my end because, like, if I try to bring it too high, it's gonna distort on my end, and it's not gonna sound good. So I'm trying to find a fine balance with the audio. Welcome, Nancy. Welcome. In case you wonder what this is, it's a melodica. I had this for 5 years. Let's see how this sounds. Alright, how did that sound? Is it sounding good? Just let me know. Right. Don't worry, you know, I don't understand things happens, you know, but technology fails sometimes. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Alright, the next one I'm gonna play is At the Cross. Alright, that was At the Cross. Yeah, that was At the Cross. Let me see. You guys, like, welcome, Linda. Hope you're having a blessed day. Welcome. I'm going to play an old classic from the 1930s. I think from the 20s or the 1930s. And from that's originated in the state of Louisiana. Oh, wrong key. Sorry about that. Hold on, let me grab my. Where's my? All right. Now here it is. Well, welcome, Mary. How are you?
I'm doing good now that my computer wanted to cooperate with me.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I understand
Didn't want to
technology.
cooperate there for a minute.
Yeah, technology doesn't all work that great, you know.
We love technology, don't we?
Yeah, you know how it is with technology, but then you can't always trust it, you know. You can't always trust technology because you just never know, right?
Just thankful it finally decided to work. I had to restart it a couple times, get it working, get it
Yeah,
moving, just like this person over here.
yep, that's how it goes sometimes.
I have to ask you, what's your favorite color?
Blue,
Blue?
yeah.
I'm gonna make Alfonso. I've made it for a couple of the other content creators, but I'm gonna make you your own cupcake. So when you tell everybody that somebody's having a birthday,
Yeah,
you can raise a cupcake.
okay,
So I will make you a blue one.
alright.
So Alfonso did something special for me, and I was very thankful for it. And you guys are going to benefit from it over on my channel. He actually has it in his. He actually has the record.
Yep. And I was very fortunate. I didn't have any problem with the transferring. I didn't have any problem with the playback. That was a good thing, you know.
And I was mistaken. I always thought it was the wave, and it wasn't the wave. It was actually Have You Met Mrs. Jones? That's the one that Scott did. And
Yeah.
in the middle of it, I was just like always as a kid growing up thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable that
Yeah,
he
because
could
you
play
know the
that well."
way when I transferred the record, what happened is I had to let me see, because I get this, it goes from my turntable onto the card, and then the card I go take it to my computer, and then I pull the wave file off of it, and then that's when I do the post production, filtering, whatever I need to do to fix the audio, or like to give it the proper preamp.
Well, it was just always it always fascinated me when you listen to the middle of that song. Have you met Miss Jones? And I was like, I always
Yeah,
just he from what I can understand, that was all impromptu,
yeah,
and so I was listening, going, always amazed how he did that. Thank you, Nancy. I've made these cupcakes. Sandy and Wendy actually requested in Blessed to Crochet that they are in our merch store, so I'm going to be putting them in there for anybody that would like to order one. Um, I've gotten the pattern that I actually like, but Alfonso is going to get his own so that there's a birthday you can raise a cupcake.
yeah.
But you can also go check out the Fourth Wall Store because he did our um, the llama drama yarn, and I made it into a coffee mug. So he did that was his logo. So if anybody ever needs a logo, contact him because he does awesome, and he's going to do a logo for a special shirt for my dear friend and uncle Scott Thompson. So we got that one in the mix if I could ever get it loaded up onto the computer properly. So he's awesome.
Yeah, like I said, like I'm very fortunate that that record was in excellent condition. I didn't have no problem except
Yeah.
it just had a lot of dust on the playing surface.
Um,
And, you,
pe-
and
People that don't know what it is, it's a dear friend of mine that was on that, like an slash uncle slash friend. So he was like an uncle to me, and that record was given to Scott to at that time. I had it. I played it as a kid repetitively. So my copy was scratched, but I gave it to him the copy when I was probably in my mid-20s, and he had a house fire, and I think it burned. And we were lucky to find two copies, and I found one, and Alfonso was grateful enough to put it where I could hear it again. And my mom was
right,
like, "We haven't heard it for years," but it was like going. It's like when you hear something that brings back so many wonderful memories that you
yeah,
go back and go, "Oh my goodness gracious!" Like bringing it all back again. So
yeah. From my experience, when you buy a record, every time I buy a record, the whole album is good. Like you like all the songs on the record, and nowadays when you buy a CD, you only get one or two good songs.
yeah.
I don't know if you ever had that experience lately. When you buy a CD, the last time you bought a CD from
I
a
haven't
store.
bought it. I don't remember the last time I bought a CD.
Yeah, but I just tell from my personal experience when I buy a CD, I only get one or two good songs. But
Yeah,
when I buy a record, usually the whole album has all the songs I like.
yeah. Well, Scott Thompson was totally blind, where you were legally blind, so
Right,
he couldn't see anything. And he
right,
was blind since birth. So, for him to be able to do what he did on the piano and the organ was absolutely amazing.
right.
So when Alfonso plays, it reminds me a lot of those days of going to see Scott in different places that had the piano and him singing. And I've got one of his songs over on my channel, and I'm going to add more what little I have. But
And I tell that was like a live recording.
yeah,
Like I said, that was not an official recording through a major label. I could really tell that was a live recording.
yeah, it was a live recording.
And there were some defects in the audio. Where it had to do with the phase correlation. Where some of the signal were kind of going in and out on the recording itself. So I kind of fixed that a little bit.
It was beautiful. I can't. I have gotten. We haven't gotten a hold of Scott yet to tell him, but I can't wait to tell him what I have because he'll be amazed. Because I know he always wanted to put it on the put it on some kind of CD. So we've got
Yeah,
it.
it's on some digital medium. Yeah, but like I
Yep.
said, because the way that was recorded, it was when I ran it to the wave editor, my sound editing program. I was looking very closely at the phase correlation, and it was out of phase partially. We had to fix it because what happened when you sum it down to mono, there are some frequencies that kind of get canceled out.
We've come so far in our technology today. I'll tell you what, we've
Yeah,
come so far.
because digital does not do very well when the audio is out of phase versus analog. Analog, if it's the audio partially out of phase, you do hear what you do hear that something's not right in the mix. But when it goes to digital, it causes more problem. So if that's something that I had to fix.
And Sandy Wendy says her sister plays the harmonica and she likes the harmonica. Thank
Wow.
you, Sandy. Well, the other cupcake that I had, and it's through to the other room, the one thing that I didn't like it is that this was kind of disappeared into the thing. So I changed the pattern so that you can see the ruffles, you can see the top of the frosting. Because before they kind of all mold together and it didn't look like a cupcake, but to me that one does. So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I was like trying to. I was trying to correct the colors of the tone and everything. Like
Well, you did a beautiful job, Alfonso. That was
versus.
my 4th of July present.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever noticed it, the difference in the colors of the tone and all that versus what other upload on YouTube. I don't know if you ever heard the difference.
I don't think so. I may. I don't have that fine of a tune in the ears to be able to notice all
To
that.
to tell the difference of the colors of the
Yeah.
tone, how when you equalize, get it properly equalized, well balanced.
I was just sitting there going, man, I felt like I was back in my room listening to Scott just play. It was just like out of old wonderful memories brought back. I thought
Wow.
I didn't sit there thinking I would ever be Miss Jones, but I ended up being Miss Jones. Thought it was
Yeah, the
fun.
wave is just the bossa nova rhythm.
Yeah. But that wasn't the one that always got me. The one that actually got me and I didn't realize it was Have You Met Miss Jones? That's the one because in the middle of that, that's where it just the way he played that was just it floored me always.
Yeah,
I
I
had
like
the
the
wrong
way
song.
I like the way he played Impossible Dreams too.
Oh, yes. That was my grandmother's favorite song. Was Impossible Dream.
Yeah,
Yeah. And he did People beautifully too as well. And he was like 22 when he did that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that was
So,
a good record. Like
yeah, it was. And it's all going to get uploaded.
yeah, then like a live recording.
Yeah.
Like a very very depth, three-dimensional live recording.
Well, that's what needs, somebody said to me, well, it was very nice that he's kind of given you the permission to do that. And I said, well, he gladly would. He's, a close family member and like an uncle to me. And I said, for him, any of his music to get out there and for people to hear like you're doing,
Right.
to him, it would be a great honor for him to be able
Wow.
to have people hear his music
Wow.
because they're not going to get to hear it any other way.
Oh
He,
no.
he used to play down in Florida. So those people heard his music, but outside of that, nobody else has.
Right.
So I thought, what I have that can be uploaded for people to hear, at least he's getting heard to some degree,
Right.
you know? And he can inspire other people that it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, just like you're doing.
Right.
You just get out there and do it. Don't hold back. Even if you're struggling with a disability, don't hold back.
Right.
Just go for it.
Right. Like I said, like
Yep.
people
And I have to
love
send
it.
you that idea for it. It would be be a record
Yeah.
with we've got you and then got you covered.
Okay.
So I've got to send it to you because that's
Okay.
going to be a really cool shirt.
All right.
So I'll be uploading them a little bit at a time.
Like my logo kind of like has a record too. My logo
Yeah,
kind of like a record.
yeah. Your logo is really cool, but I thought you did a great job on the the the
The llama.
the llama, and we're gonna get some more uploaded
Okay.
and added to it. More ideas will come, and the cupcakes are gonna go up for anybody that wants to order one. But there's people that have done stuff for this channel. They're gonna get their cupcake, so make sure you get one, Alfonso. And then when you're gonna sing "Happy Birthday," you can raise a cupcake
Yeah.
and say "Happy Birthday."
Except I cannot light up a candle here because that'll be a scene.
Well, you don't have to. You can just say here.
Yeah.
You could just say "Happy Birthday."
Yeah.
Now, this one is purple, and this is the only one I'm doing with this sparkle with the purple because this is going to be specifically for our
Right.
channel. But I can get sparkle yarn, but not in purple because that's
Right.
less a crochet color.
Right.
But I'll make sure you get one. I have to order little labels for the bottom so that it's labeled with our name on it.
Right. I'm gonna play you "Whispering Hope."
Beautiful.
Thank you. That was Whispering Hope. And I heard that song's also popular around Christmas time as well.
I have to send you a song to look up.
Okay.
Debbie's Wood Burning says, "Hey Alfonso, stopped in and hit that thumbs up for you and have a great day." Yep, hit those thumbs up. Have a great stream, she says.
Thank you.
Hit those
Thank
thumbs up. Don't forget this. If you haven't subscribed to Alfonso, go ahead and subscribe. But there's a song called The Lighthouse. I have to send it to you to have you look at that one. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
I think I've heard it by the Gospel Brass, the Lighthouse.
Yeah, DJ Summer and the Stamps did The Lighthouse.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I have it on a record by the Gospel Brass.
Beautiful song.
Yeah, I had that record when I was in college. Then I got put on some play square dancing tune.
The square dancing up. Beautiful.
Thank you. Now, bowing cabins down. Get my electric guitar. Oops. I keep losing my picks. I'm gonna play an old classic song from the 50s called Madre Eres Ternura. You're tender than your mother.
It's beautiful. I love the way the guitar sounds.
Yeah. Especially when I run my guitar through that delay. It can sound like an old vintage guitar from the 50s, right? Doesn't it?
Yep, it does.
Yeah, I love this guitar. I don't know why. It has the sound I really love. Yeah, it's like says like this is my best guitar I have so far. Yeah, I had it for a year already.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
And the only instrument this girl can play is the flute.
the flute. Wow.
That's about it. Guitar is beautiful. If anybody can please add my aunt to their prayer list, please. Um, she is struggling with stage 4 liver and lung cancer. She was in the hospital a couple days ago. She's dealing with a lot of pain, and they have found out that I think the cancer is now spreading. Um, and there was an actual blockage in her liver at one point. So that's not a very good sign.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So if anybody, excuse me, would just lift Patty up in your prayers, please, for just She's a fighter. She'll fight till the end. But also that she can have the last part of her life not be in a lot of pain,
Right.
you know. And she knows where she's going, so
Yeah.
that's wonderful. But she's
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I know from experience. Going to church. What I don't like about churches nowadays, that lately they've been talking about politics, and it's just I don't think it's not appropriate that they bring politician into the church. I don't know if you agree with me or not on that.
I don't think that we need to talk about who we're going to vote for and all that kind of stuff. That
Right.
I don't.
Right. But
However,
but
I
the
do.
churches are bringing that. Her my friend was telling me that her church, her priest was saying that you need to vote for this candidate, otherwise they were gonna.
No, we don't need that. But here's where I think that some of the churches have fallen down
Yeah.
in the sense that do we need to talk about the fact that the Bible from start to finish is perfect.
Right.
It's God's breath, it's God's word
Yeah.
from start to finish. There's nothing that's supposed to be taken or added away.
That's correct.
Which means that the law of our land has certain laws that we
Right.
need to abide by, but they're not where God's moral standard is, where
Right.
He says this is acceptable and this isn't.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the sin, sin is sin. It doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
But we need to, I think they need to be talked about. But just because we disagree with some laws that have been created
Right.
doesn't mean that we need to go hit people over the head in this world with the Bible. We need to embrace them the way Jesus did with love.
Right.
And we're not going to bring people to Jesus by doing that.
That's correct.
You
And
know,
I can see why people are not going to church anymore, because they just bring too much politician into the church itself. Tell
well,
them who to vote for, and they shouldn't bring that in. They should be preaching the gospel.
well, it's preaching the gospel, and there's churches that preach and tickle your ears.
Yeah.
It's like that big church in Texas. I'm not going
Yeah.
to put the name out there, but we know who it is. If you can have the house, and you know what, if you're able to have the house and all that kind of stuff, and the jet plane and everything, go for it.
Right.
But at the same time, that church is packed because it's not talking it's tickling your ears. It's not getting into the meat of the Bible, and
Right.
that's what churches, I think, to some degree, are afraid to preach,
Right.
and they need to,
Right.
but they don't need to tell you who to vote for.
Right. They should not be telling who you should vote for. Period. And
This,
unfortunately, it's been happening.
well, our pastor says it doesn't matter who's in the White House. We may not like the person in the White House.
Right.
Good night, Patty. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. At the end of the day, God's still on the throne,
Yep. That's correct.
and we need to be praying for whoever's sitting in the White House.
Right.
Now, we don't have to like that person. We don't have to like what they're doing. I feel terrible for, especially having a father who went and battled with dementia. I have a very hard time watching anything because I just think of think what he's going through from a patient.
Right.
If people don't believe he has dementia, then you'll need to look up very, very closely. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in office.
Right.
God's still sitting on the throne.
Yeah. And that's the way I see it.
And
At the
this
end of
earth, this earth is not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect
Oh no.
until Jesus comes back.
And that we don't know when Jesus is coming back.
Nope. You need to be ready
Yeah.
when he does. You know.
Let me tell you a funny story. When I was going to church in Alamogordo, New Mexico, the priest gave a sermon. and he was talking about those who are gonna be saved and those who are not gonna be saved, and he said that when Jesus come, he said that 70% of the global population are sinners, and only 30% of the global population are gonna be saved, and he talked about how California and the West and the East Coast are gonna be gone by then, and he said the safer place to be was well, he said that he got a letter from St. Paul and St. Peter saying that the safer place to be was Alamogordo, New Mexico. And everybody started laughing. You could hear everybody in church was laughing.
I'd be laughing too.
Yeah. The safer place to be is Alamogordo, New Mexico. Nowhere else.
Well, you know what?
Jesus come.
There's no safe place, and we don't know who's saved and who's not. You know, I had an uncle who unfortunately left this world. Good night. You know, and I I I used to say to my dad, "I'll see him one day," and he goes, "How do you know that?" And I said, "I don't know. Maybe he's not in heaven, but I have to believe that he is because
Right.
it gives me peace."
Right.
Whether or not he's there is, I'll find that when I go to heaven, and if he's not there, I'm not going to shed a tear. But until then, I'm going to believe he did.
Right.
We don't know who's going and who's not.
Even though there are priests that claim that they know that who's going and who's not. There are
There's
priests
only
and
one
pastors
person.
out there that they
There's
claim
only
to
one
be.
person.
Yeah, and it doesn't work that way.
No, if you came and died on the cross, you know, believe that Jesus died on the cross for your sins,
Right.
and accept him in your heart as your Lord and Savior, you're going.
Right.
I've said it as terrible as it is to say, even, you know, to say, you know, somebody like, wait, even the terrible things that O.J. Simpson did. At the end of the day, if he accepted the Lord in his heart and soul, he's someplace that people would probably not imagine him to be.
Right.
Look at the person on the cross. One
Right.
person chose to take, and one person didn't. On the
Right.
other side of Jesus, and you know, and so we don't know. But that's why you're doing what you're doing, and you're talking about it. It's why over on my channel we're doing, you know, Devotion Tuesday and doing the Bible verses, because it's just getting people to listen to the Word.
Right. And I like to spread it through music. You know.
It's a wonderful way to spread it.
Yeah. Because every here look up the website hymnary.org. A lot of the hymns, a lot of the songs, they're referencing the scripture. They're based out of the scripture.
Well, I did something recently on mine. There's a song called "The Promise" by the Martins, and I took that song. It's one of my favorite songs, and I took that song and I broke it down. I put all the verses on a little Devotion Tuesday, and I did that because I wanted people to realize you can take a song and break it down and find a scripture to match that and do a devotion from a song.
Right.
It doesn't have to be in a book.
Right.
You can break it up. You don't always have to do it one way all the time.
But a lot of the songs that were written, they were all based from the scripture. So they're referencing the scriptures.
Absolutely.
Like the Mexican folk song, the Mexican birthday song La Mañanita, somehow that came from a scripture too. When I looked it up. Because hymnary.org has all the reference to all the hymns that out there for all the denominations. And it even includes the Mexican folk songs too. Like there's one song called De Colores, means of colors. and that was actually came from a scripture, from the scripture too.
Well, I uploaded what was it? I'm uploading like nature sounds on our channel
Right,
over at Blessed to Crochet, and I'm trying to find Bible verses that match that. So when before I start whatever nature, whether it's rain, I've done ocean, I've done whale sounds. I'm going to be probably doing other sounds, but I try to find a scripture. And when
right,
I start it with the intro, very relaxing intro, and then I put the Bible verse up. And the reason I do is because I want people to realize that even in nature, all around us, there's Bible verses to that talk about that. They talk about the rain, they talk about the whales, they talk about the oceans. It's right there. So I start it and I end it with the Bible verse.
right. And another thing I want to say, that in the Hispanic culture, the Mexican churches, you know what they do? We take a lot of old Western songs, like for the old country Western, stuff like that, and they get adopted. They change the lyrics to make it gospel.
Yeah.
There, for instance, we're taking Red River Valley. That was adopted into in Spanish, "Dame la mano," which means "give me your hand."
I don't know if I've ever heard that one.
Yeah, and then there's another one there's a couple of others that I know. "Blowing in the Wind" by Bruce Instinct, or I don't remember who it was. "Blowing in the Wind." That one got adopted to "Saber que vendrá," which means "what lies ahead." And then another one that I know is called "Padre Nuestro que tú que estás," "Our Father who art." That came from the song "The Sound of Silence" by Simon Garfunkel.
Wow.
So they taken a lot of the American folk song, and it's been adopted
Yep.
to the
Well,
Spanish church songs.
well, just look at Elvis Presley. He used to say if he went to a church, he said the whole church would stop.
Right,
He said because they're not going to be paying any attention to the pastor. They're going to be
right,
paying attention to me. And he said I refused to go to a church not because I didn't want to, but because he didn't want to distract from people getting the word.
right,
But in every concert he did gospel music. He said I brought people to church in the middle of X amount of people all over the place. You know, sold out concerts. And he would stop and there's a song, another one that I'd love for you to learn too is "Sweet Sweet Spirit." Beautiful song. He didn't sing in it, but he would turn his back to the audience and face the sweet inspirations, and you can see him just absorbing the song
right.
and then going back to the audience. And I'm thinking, does that happen today?
Maybe.
Maybe in some, but you'll see some of the artists today, and they're not stopping to worship the Lord in the middle of a concert.
Right.
Some of them are, but not all of them.
Right. Now I'm gonna play you "Padre Nuestro que tú que estás."
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was the Spanish version of the Sound of Silence.
Somebody was asking, do you know my God, nearer my God to thee? Keep up the great work. Very beautiful. Glad I stumbled on your channel, Jake.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Let me, yeah. Let me, what song was it?
Nearer my God to thee.
I don't remember hearing that one. Had to keep that in mind for future reference. I'm going to play you Precious Lord, Take My Hand.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thou precious Lord, take my hand. And the next one I have lined up is I don't know who holds tomorrow. I mean, I know who holds tomorrow.
Yes, we do. You know what song you should do?
Which one?
God Bless America, since we have the fourth.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll do that. Now, God bless America.
Beautiful.
Yeah, next we'll do is America the Beautiful.
Beautiful. Happy 4th, everybody. A little bit late, but happy 4th.
Yeah, it sounds like a very close proximity to the weekend, you know. And of course, they're still throwing fireworks where I'm at.
No, get it right. It's fireworks.
What?
When my daughter was little, she couldn't say fireworks, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So she would sit there going, Mommy, more fireworks, more fireworks. So we call it fireworks,
Yeah.
not fireworks.
Yeah, they keep throwing those around here.
They do too here.
Now, I was wondering, speaking of patriotic hymns, I heard that they get played in the churches as well. You think it's appropriate or no?
I mean, I think like God Bless America, and I know for us,
America the Beautiful.
I know for us when we used to, when my dad was alive, and we used to go to church, and they had I think it was the 4th of July. I think they used to do that for the 4th, and they used to, what was it? They used to ask for the military to stand.
Right.
He see, my dad served 28 years, 6 months, and 10 days in the Navy. He was a first class petty officer. And he used to sit there and people would say, How can you still get in your Navy uniform? Well, he got his last issue, which 28 years down the road he could fit in it. And he went so proudly to put that on once he was retired. It meant so much to him, and they would all stand for the all the branches it served. And to me, they're men and women that put their lives on the line, and the
Right.
families. I think they need to be honored. Um, we've done God Bless America and different hymns. I don't think we've ever done the national anthem. So if
Well,
that's the
have
appropriate
heard the
place.
national anthem played in church before, but when I was going playing in the Spanish service, like now I'm go like the Spanish mass, we play the Mexican national anthem. But what they do, they change, like say, they change the words around, like to make it sound more Christian wise, like
There's one and I did it with a short that I actually did it with. If you go to my channel, I did the short to wish everybody a happy 4th. Um, and I did it from Sandy Patty, who did uh, 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 the patriotic melody. And I will tell you, one of our ladies in our church did that one time. Her name was Lana, and I thought I should bring my camcorder when she did it, because she sang that song. And we had the church that we came from Florida. We had windows. Now they were hurricane windows. This is South Florida, hurricane windows, right?
right.
And I'm telling you, when she hit, I don't know if you've ever heard Sandy Patty sing this song. I don't know how she ever got that high, but this girl was amazing. And she sang that song, and literally the glass, you could see it vibrating. I thought the glass is going to break, because she was singing so high. I mean, it was hurricane glass; it wasn't going to break. But
right. I think high pitch won't vibrate as much as with the lower frequency, like the bass line. That's like
you
the
could
bass.
see windows like they were shaking like
Yeah.
this. You could see them shaking from her voice.
Yeah,
Oh my
like
god!
the low end, like the low frequency, like the bass and all that.
Excuse me.
Now that could vibrate heavily. He might rattle some windows and all that. Like if he got too much bass, yeah, that's gonna cause problems.
For me, Battle Hymn of the Republic is a favorite song.
Yeah.
Even Sandy Wendy saying that one. For me, that I love the way that Elvis Presley sings it. And my dad was in hospice care the last couple of years of his life, and we all had COVID, and so he had to go into like respite care for a couple weeks, and he ended up eventually passing away. And that was the song that I refused to play until about January. It was January the 1st. My mom had just gotten home from the hospital. She was very sick. I almost lost her, and I said I won't play this one. And she came home on January the 1st, like 2021, and I remember it was like 12:15 at night, and I
Right.
said, "Okay, Daddy, it's time to go home." And I played that song, and they called us up, and they said 20 minutes later, they said he's gone. I was like, man. But that song is beautiful, the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Do you want me to play that one or?
If Sandy Wendy's requesting it.
All right. All right. Go ahead.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Man, I bet if I could play that on a big pipe organ.
That would be gorgeous.
Yeah, imagine pulling all the stops on the pipe organ. Probably shatter some windows and all that.
We wouldn't want you to do that.
Well, that could happen if you pull all the stops out. Especially like
Those,
the low frequency, like the 16 foot, the 32, and then the 64 foot. Like that will, because they say that's the loudest instrument in the world, the pipe organ.
I always thought it was the Scottish bagpipes.
No, no, it's the pipe organ.
Oh, I didn't realize. I thought if you listen to the Scottish bagpipes, it'll wake you up, right?
Oh yeah, I personally seen those Scottish bagpipes at the Renaissance Fair in New Mexico. Um, they brought all these vendors from Europe, which they have flown in.
Wow.
And I personally
I'm
seen
part Scottish.
The Scottish bagpipe players, and they are loud.
Yep, they are. I've heard them. I've gone to the we had a Scottish festival, um, and they got to hear the Scottish bagpipes. See, I'm starting to work on your cupcake.
Like I remember hearing like person seeing them up close in person.
Well, my grandmother was born in Scotland, so she heard them. Believe me. Jake says he sees a lot of pipe and drums.
Right.
But I've heard them. And for me, when I know when we had my grandmother's funeral, we oh, he's a fighter fire, so it's often we had I had the Amazing Grace on my phone with bagpipes, and that's what we played at her service because she was a laddie.
Right.
I think no, not a laddie. It's something else. Or Lacey. I forgot what the Scottish thing for female is. She was born over in Aberdeen, Scotland. She married a Greek man, so boy, Greek and Scottish. What a what a what a what a
I got,
combination. That's for sure.
I'm going to play you another patriotic tune.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I just don't know what the name of that melody is.
It's taps.
Oh,
That's what it
taps?
is. It's taps.
Oh, okay.
It's usually played. I know it was played at my dad's service. It's usually played at the military, and they usually play it during somber settings. But it's taps.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just didn't know what the name of the melody. But I heard it so many times, I just didn't know what the name of it. Very interesting to know.
Jake, I just went to your channel because I don't know if you uploaded it on your channel. Um, I was trying to see if maybe you uploaded. There's no way for you to share it through the message unless it's uploaded on your channel.
Okay, now do I have any birthdays?
I got the cupcake.
Yep.
I brought the cupcake, and these don't spoil.
Right.
I got to get boxes for them though, shipping boxes for them to put them in.
And get a battery power candle.
You could, but that's why I do the cherry on the top because.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go look that up, Jake. Then give me a minute.
Oops. I'm going to play How Beautiful Is the Morning.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Jake says, Alfonso, you have real talent. Keep playing. Thanks for putting a smile on people's faces.
Oh, you're
Absolutely.
welcome. I didn't think
Absolutely.
my music would make an impact that far.
Well, you know what? I don't care what it is. You know, if it puts a smile on people's face, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I could encourage you to do it.
Thank you.
One of the reasons Alfonso has me on is because of his site, and so this way I can keep the chat clean and safe for everybody to come in, because we're not going to have any drama, right? No drama
Right.
llamas allowed unless it's yarn drama.
Right.
And we're going to have nice clean chat, but then it makes it easier because I can read the chat for him.
Right.
And I get to hang out with a friend. 'Cause
Yeah,
he
but it
has
makes it
become a
easier for
friend.
me because that way I can focus more on playing, you know.
Yeah. But I just remember when you first came on my cheek, because we do something called Saturday night hangouts from time to time,
Right.
and you came on and played, and he said to me, he goes, I don't do live concerts on my channel because I'm too afraid that we're going to have the trolls and everything. And I just said, well, you make me a mod, we're not going to have that.
Right.
And you got brave and decided to come on, and I said I would help you with it, and you've done
Yeah,
it.
because
So-
because when I was doing it by myself, I had a really hard time keeping up with the chats and all that. Like, it's just
but that's what it is, you're here to support.
right.
Well, you know what, Jake, this is my feeling about it. The people that are not doing channels do not realize all that goes involved in it. Alfonso is legally blind. I have fibromyalgia, so I have some help with getting things and content on my channel. But people don't realize, unless you're doing it, all the work that's involved, and what it takes to get to wherever it is. And if anybody can help, the way people can help other content creators is by helping them with their watch hours. So if anybody wants to, help Alfonso with his watch hours, that's a great way of doing it. I know you should be probably around 400, 450, somewhere around there. I know the
Yeah.
last time we talked, you were like at 350, so you probably are like about 400 now.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't really check the analytics. You know, just
I know Blessed to Crochet, we're at almost 2100. We have 900 to go on watch hours before we get to the 3000 mark. But like I said, I was talking on my channel, and I said people need to realize when if you think of a YouTube channel, especially ones that are doing live content, you are coming into somebody's home, okay? You're coming into their home. You may have had to drive to the party. You may have had to, bring something. I know if I didn't, my grandmother would be saying, Mary, I raised you better. You may be bringing a covered dish or a soda or chips or whatever. When you're knocking on the door, that's the way of you hitting that subscribe button and saying, I'm ringing the doorbell. Well, when you come in, you may know the hostess or host or hostess, or somebody at the party, but the host and hostess have done and brought food and maybe entertainment to have the party. They may have sent invitations out, whatever they had to do the event. You're connecting with people in the party and getting to know them. When you're leaving, that's the like button. And then if you can come back to the video once it's finished and just say thanks for the good time, that's a thank you note. That's a text message a couple days later. Thanks for having the party. People have to realize that content creators are, the equipment that is sitting in front of Alfonso cost him funds.
Oh
The
yeah,
computer,
it's not cheap, you know.
no, the computer that I have, the microphone and the camera all cost, and yeah, it was $60 for the camera and the mic, but it cost. Will eventually on our side on Blessed Crochet have to upgrade the computer. That's a $500 cost. So that's kind of like the entertainment and the food that's at the party. So when people get to the point where they're able to have memberships and super chats and monetization, it's them kind of putting out the entertainment and the food in front of you, and and but instead it's whatever equipment they need to keep the channel going,
Right.
and are doing giveaways or whatever it is. He'll probably be adding more instruments and equipment and have to maybe get additional music sheets and all that kind of stuff, and that's all going to cost. But if people think of it that way, it changes the dynamics of how people look at the YouTube channels, especially if they're doing a lot of live content for them.
Right.
And it's not just flip on the mic and go. Sometimes it is.
But that's not always the case, you know.
It's not always the case. It's a
No,
lot of hard work to get to where it is.
live content's a little bit easier, but if you're doing regular video, you have to spend a lot of time editing.
Yes.
I could spend 2 or 3 weeks just to edit one video.
Yep. Well, I thought, oh, recording's no problem. Just now I could spend 2 hours to record a video. And it's like,
Yeah.
now I know why people do live content, but it still takes energy and time.
Yeah, but it's not the same. You know, when you record the audio part, like let's say I'm recording a song, you know, I could spend 2 or 3 weeks recording one song because the mixing, the mastering, post processing, everything, just to get it sound to recording standards where it needs to be. That takes time.
And Jake, I agree. Music brings people together. But it all comes down with helping each other. Like Alfonso's helped us with our logo to get that to the point now. If I can get it on some of the stuff I've gotten uploaded onto the Fourth Wall store, and he helped us with the Drama Llama logo, and he did that amazing. It was a gift, Alfonso, to upload that album and listen to it to our family and to Scott. But to me, being on here and helping him is just I'm helping a friend.
Wow.
And people don't realize if they want to sit here and say, you can't make friends through this. Yes, you can. And people that are maybe dealing with chronic illnesses or disabilities, or maybe raising a special needs child, or taking care of a loved one dealing with, chronic illness, this may be an outlet for them in a way that they may not be able to go out and socialize too much, but they're getting it through live content form.
Yep.
I would have never met Alfonso if it hadn't been for starting our YouTube channel. I mean, my mom and I would have never found you as a friend.
Right.
And it's just all about having each other's back. That's why I want to do that shirt that says we got you covered. Because we all have each other covered. We all have each other's back if we let it.
Right. And guys, I want to say, I was on Deb's wood burning channel the other night. You know what? She mentioned about spreading kindness. When you spread kindness, it goes a long ways.
Oh yeah.
Like smile at someone, greet someone with a smile, say nice things to them, because you don't know what the other person's going through.
Nope. We were in a store.
That person might be having a bad day, but you could change things around.
We were at a store one time, and there was this lady who, this was a long time ago, but she had 2 children, and she just looked like she was so overwhelmed. And she was going through self-checkout. And my my mom and I said, "Can we help you?" And we started helping to load her groceries. I mean, she had a lot of groceries and two kids that were just, you know, she was overwhelmed. And we stopped and helped load her groceries and got her to the point where she could get in and out quickly. But it's all about lending a hand,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
And
because like what I said, kindness can go a long way. Just paying it forward. You never know. This person
well,
could be having a bad day, and you could turn it around in a split second.
and two, like I said to you one of the times we were out, I said, "Do you ever go through a day without going onto your music?" And you said, "No, there's not a day where I don't play my music." Well, there's not a day where I'm not crocheting. I'm always like I'm having trouble sitting, even though I'm doing stuff because I'm on my channel, getting people over to his channel. Um, those that hop in, but I've got to keep my hands busy, and I
Right.
deal with pain. So if I'm sitting here and my hands aren't busy, I'm actually hurting tonight. So I have to keep my hands busy with something. But just like you have to go to the piano and play. Well, I have to have crochet
Or
in my
when I
hand.
go, when I go for walks on the trail, I carry my harmonicas with me.
Yep.
That when I stop and rest at a park, whatever, I can just sit, relax, and play like while resting for 20 minutes before I continue walking the next couple of miles. Like I'm stopping every couple of miles and rest, and that's how I get my 5 6 miles daily
You walking some for me too?
on the
There's not a
trail.
day that I don't listen or play my trombone. I get it 100%. Yep. I found crochet couple of probably about 6 7, no, it's been longer than that, probably about 10 years ago. And I said I pick up a crochet hook, and I thought, "Oh, I'll just try this one hat." And then I was so frustrated that I'm never going to pick it up again. Well, that I shouldn't have said, never say never. Cuz
Yep.
you're going to realize that if you say never, then and now I'm doing so many more advanced things that I never thought I would do. But I don't go through a day without crocheting or listening to music. That's one thing that I totally enjoy as well.
Yeah.
And I think I've played Have You Met Miss Jones about 10 times already.
I tell you what, my my harmonica, they're kind of going out on me already. Had them for 4 years. My
Oh
harmonicas I
my
carry,
goodness.
they're going out.
You're wearing them out?
Yeah, they lasted me 4 years. I don't know how many harmonicas I have worn out over the last
I didn't know
14
you could.
years.
I didn't know you could wear out a harmonica. Well, that's something new I learned.
Oh yeah, they do wear out. It depends. If you buy the cheap $20 harmonica, yeah, they're only gonna last you 6 months. Buy those cheap $20 harmonica, yeah, they're only gonna last you 6 months because the reeds are gonna go out. They're gonna get out of tune. They're gonna get stuck. They're not gonna be able to play it no more. The air gonna start leaking. Like I tell you what, it's not gonna sound good anymore. And after 6 months, it's just gonna you're gonna get air leakage. Maybe after a year, all you're gonna get is just air leaking out.
And Smoky Mountain Blessed is in. She
Hello,
said,
Joyce.
I'm popping in to say hi, hit the like
Welcome,
button, and laying down with my feet up." Sounds
welcome,
wonderful.
welcome.
That's kind of what I've done throughout the day. I don't know whether it was just the pollen and the weather or whatever, but I had a little bit of asthma
Yeah.
yesterday and today, so I've kind of been just resting.
Now some of the real older harmonicas that had like the wooden combs that like were made in Germany, those do last a very long time. I don't know how many years, but they don't make them that way anymore. The way they used to.
They don't make anything. I was sitting there, forgot who was it that I said something. I said, Oh yeah, we're gonna have an all-American holiday, right? We're gonna have Chinese food, and we did. We had Chinese food for 4th of July because I didn't feel like cooking, and Chinese food, and what else did we have? We had Chinese food, and we watched the Capitol Fourth. And somebody said, "Well, everything else is imported." I'm like, "You're right," you know. So
But the reason they're not made to last because they want you to just keep buying their
they
stuff.
want you to buy. Yep.
Like I know, like in my harmonica, I go through them. When I first started playing, yeah, I was going through them like every 6 months, like set after set. I'm like, yeah, I'm just costing me more money in the long run than well, then I could just invest on a good set of harmonicas, like maybe like spend like 40, 50, $60 for each one.
When I go down to the Amish country again, I will look and see if there's a harmonica down there. I know you asked me to look, I just haven't gone down there. Waiting for it to cool off. It's too hot.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, because I don't know if they still carry them like the older one, like that has like the wooden comb and all that.
I will have to look the next time I go down there and see. There's one shop I know I can go to. It's always busy.
Right. But they're yeah. Let me see what I got in this one. Where's my like this harmonica? This is from Germany. It has a wooden comb.
It's a beautiful harmonica.
Yeah, it's a Hohner's Echo.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I want to say this will cost like around $180 single sided.
Like I said, that's your food and entertainment.
Yeah, and this is a double sided Echo harmonica, and this is about $300.
Oh.
Which I got two of them. And I just been very blessed to get them because when I worked at Catholic Charity Store in New Mexico, my HR manager got me this. And then I want to say a couple of years ago, one of my coworkers got me this one.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I know the feeling when it comes to yarn is can be very expensive.
The yarn, yeah.
I wish yarn was free.
Well, something you might find them in the thrift store too, you know.
You can. That's why eventually on my channel I want to do blessing boxes for
Right.
people that like to crochet, but the yarn is they can't
Cheap.
afford the yarn, so that they
Right.
can go out there and um, get the ask us for a blessing box, and we can send it to them, and then they can make something with whatever we send them, and then they could give it to like an organization that does hats or scarves or blankets and that kind of thing.
Right.
And then people are spreading the kindness.
Yep. But you know what's amazing? Like around the holiday season, that's when everybody spreads kindness and everybody's nice to each other. But the rest of the year, it's not like that. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I think that people today are there's a certain level of, you know what, I don't want to offend somebody, so I'm not going to say this or that.
Right.
I don't want to offend you.
Right.
Not that we need to be offensive in what we say, but if we can't have a healthy discussion about whatever the topic is, and at the end of the day say, guess what, I may not agree with you, but I'm going to respect your viewpoint on that,
Right.
and walk away as friends, then we
Right.
got a problem.
Right.
You
I'm
know.
going to play Close to the Master.
Beautiful.
I don't hear heard the song Close to the Master.
Maybe I've heard it. I'm not sure, but it
An old
doesn't
one,
sound.
yeah.
It's an oldie but goodie,
Yeah.
right?
Way back in my days. Probably before your time.
I'm sure it was. Most of the old hymns are before both of our times.
I'm gonna play, see if you recognize this one. There's done originally by the Sons of the Pioneer.
Sounds familiar.
Yep. Lean on
And
the everlasting arm.
Smoky Mountain Bless said that's a great idea about the blessing crochet boxes to help givers when they can't afford yarn, but they have the skills to crochet. Absolutely, it is one of the goals of our channel. Along with my channel is connection and focus on creativity and just having discussions. I don't teach people how to crochet. I don't do it. Um, but uh, it's really my mom's channel, but she doesn't want to be the face of it. So I said, well, Mom, I'll do the face. So when we get monetized, everything goes to her. And then eventually she wants to take the funds and help my husband who needs a diabetic service dog. It's going to cost about $20,000 for him to get his diabetic
Oh
service
my
dog.
god, that's a lot of.
Um, and but we have to go through privately because we have a dog we don't want to get rid of. So we have to work with somebody that will train to have both dogs in the home. And then after we do that, we want to give to our church, of course. We want to give to another channel that's very dear to my heart, which is the Lifeboat, who help people with medically needed assisted treatment for addictions. And then we want to do blessing boxes. We want to give back. We want to, people that could reach out and say, listen, I want to do hats and scarves and blankets and stuff, but I just can't afford yarn. I mean, like the yarn that I got, this I get a lot from Hobby Lobby. This is $4 for this skein, and I got it on sale. So if you're doing a big blanket, it can cost $50 to $60. But if we can give somebody the ability that maybe dealing with chronic pain that needs to have something to do and then can turn it over and give it to somebody that can bless somebody else that needs a hat or a scarf or blankets or whatever it is, then to me it's worth it. The blessings go on. It doesn't stop.
Right.
And that's a way of giving back. So that's one of the things that we would love to do with my mom's and my channel. But I forgot to tell you, this month is special for me because the 21st is my husband's and I's 17th wedding anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
So
Like, you don't hear about the long-term marriages anymore.
we'll be celebrating. And these are going on our merch store, on our thing, on our channel because of Sandy Wendy's request. But I'm making Alfonso his own one, so you guys can, when he says it's time to play the birthday song, he can hold up his own cupcake because he's done. That album will forever be treasured. I can tell you that. So this is just a little thank you. And it will be well played, but this time I don't have to worry about wearing it out. I think I want to frame the album you're going to send back to me. I think I want to frame it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to play it.
Yeah, because the more you play it, the more you're going to wear it down,
Yes. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Yeah. Well, I'm going to probably do something this month about it because marriage is not easy. But in our world today, what happens is too many people say, "Oh, I don't love each other. They don't love each other anymore," and they just walk away. And you know what?
And you know what's sad about it? People get married just for the money. They get into a relationship just for financial gain.
It's just like, well, and if we realize that love's a feeling, and there's days I love my husband, I always love him, but there's days I don't like him, he doesn't like me, but we're committed. We've both of us, this is our second marriage, and we said we have 3 boundaries. You cross any one of those 3, then we'll talk about that D word. Otherwise, that boat is burned, it's gone, it's not an option, it doesn't happen. And when I say I married my best friend, I married my best friend. Smoky Mountain Blessed, yes, I know that they hold it per month as far as, the $100 per month. I have big dreams for our channel. That's why we opened the merch store over there, as a way. But there are private agencies that will, but a lot of them that are um, legitimate require you to have one dog. A lot, like there's an agency in Cincinnati that will give him a dog. However, they require us to get rid of our Staffordshire Bull Terrier, Mocha. And if you go to our channel, you'll see her. She's a short superstar over there. Um, but this is a dog that has been um, through heck and high water. She was abused, and we tried to rehome her this past year. And my husband said, "We're done," and just said, "We're not doing this to this dog." Um, and so, in order for that agency won't work with us because we have Mocha, which is not really our dog; it's our daughter's dog that she adopted, but she can't take care. She can't care for her right now. So we are, and my fear with Mocha is that not a lot of people will take the time to understand her properly, and they're not going to realize all her little little quirks and all that kind of stuff. She's a marshmallow. This is a dog that went hiding under the bed because there's a fly in the room, But she's in the bully breed. She's people see her. They consider her a pit, and I think she'd be one of those dogs that go in and out of the shelter pretty quickly. And we're not doing it. This dog has been through too much. We just won't do it. So my husband's like, "Nope, we're not getting rid of her. Um, we're not. It's not happening. And we'll do what we need to do. And if I have to wait on my dog, then I'll wait. But we do have to find a private agency that will care for her, or not care for, or will work with both dogs. But this is Mocha. That's Mocha. So we'll
Well,
get there.
it's kind of hard, honestly, with service animals stuff like that, because now once you have a service animal, I would hate to say it, but it can be a lot harder because a lot of places don't want to let you in, even though they're supposed to. But there are restaurants that still refuse entry of stuff with service animals.
Well, that's when you have to call the police. You know, I never. My daughter had Jordan. She had a black lab service dog who served 7 years and was in service with her for 7 years. And we went to a doctor one time. Now I was not there, and my husband went, and I was home not feeling well, and they called me up. They would not let my daughter's dog. Have a good night, Nancy. My daughter's dog back in the room with the nurse till the nurse was done doing all the check stuff and the blood pressure. Well, that's why Jordan was there, and because he helped keep her calm. And I remember the nurse said, "Oh well, the nurse has allergies." And I said, "Well, first of all, you can't keep a dog away from the person who's the dog, the person who the dog is serving. You can't separate." Well, we have to think of our clinic and our nurses first. Well, if I had been there, the police would have been called. You let my daughter's dog back there with her, or I'm calling the police, because you are violating ADA law. That nurse can't have the dog back there because of her allergies. Guess what? Get another nurse to take care of her. Because what would it have been if, like, Tops, down in Florida we had Tops, which was like, they pick people up and take them to doctor's appointments. And so if somebody had a service animal and was by themselves and was blind, came in there with a service dog, are you going to make the service dog sit out there in the waiting room while the person was blind goes back to have his stuff checked and his vitals checked? You're not going to separate them. That's against the law.
Yeah.
We didn't go back. Just so you know.
Well, I hate to
They
say
couldn't,
that,
but they did. They separated them, and there was no way talking them out. I mean, my husband was there. They took her back, and they said, "Oh, well, her blood pressure is raised." Well, I wonder why. Idiots.
And let me tell you what, Florida is not a very good state for those who are blind.
Well, the problem is people don't know a lot about um they don't know a lot about they
The
don't have a
ADA.
they don't know a lot about ADH law. Like I
Well,
was
Florida got rid of the ADA. Florida got a few years back because there's businesses were complaining that all these advocacy were taking advantage by suing them for not complying with ADA. So Florida made a new law that mainly protect businesses more than those with disabilities.
well, the problem is too is that you know, people take advantage. I remember when we went to the it was in the post office driver's license bureau, and we had Jordan, and the driver's license people said to me, "That a service animal?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, just so you know, my manager may come over and require paperwork and identification of the dog." And I said, "You know that's illegal, right? You can't do that. You can ask 3 questions. That's it. You can't ask what the disability is, but you can ask what the dog does for the person with the disability, what services does the dog perform, and there's other questions. But you don't have to show paperwork and identification card or anything like that." So if the manager had come over to me asking me for paperwork or identification, and if I didn't produce it, I would have had to leave. The police would have been called because you're breaking ADA law. But what floored me was they're working in a public building
Right.
and they don't know what the law is. Now, where the problem comes in, and people don't realize this, and if I offend anybody, I'm not trying to, but this when we talk about service dogs, I get a little bit of a mama bear because I had to raise 15,000 for Christina's dog, and I did, and it was worth it, every penny for her dog, her black lab, who was rescued from a shelter and was an amazing service animal. But people need to realize when you have your pets, I know that there's places that will allow you to take your animals with you in the stores and all that kind of stuff. Please do yourself a favor. Take them to restaurants where they can sit outside. You want to go take them into the Lowe's and Home Depot and that kind of stuff. That's fine, but please please refrain as much as you can of taking dogs that are not accurate, trained service animals into places. Like I don't like to shop at Joann's. Now, our Joann's does not have a huge yarn selection, and I have shopped at Joann's. But Joann allows you to bring pets into their stores. Well, if they have an accident in the store, they say, "Well, we have stuff to clean it up." But if a service animal goes into a place and has an accident, they can actually be asked to leave the store. So if you have a dog, realize that if somebody else has a service animal, it could take just mere seconds to miss a detect of somebody's high or low sugar number, a seizure, heart arrhythmia if they're a cardiac service animal, a meltdown if it's an autistic individual. It can take seconds to distract the dog from a dog that's not trained and is misbehaving. When we were in Home Depot, or it was Office Depot, and there was a dog. This dog was obviously not a service animal, and he was barking up a storm. Jordan was not paying a bit of attention. But what I ended up having to do was send Christina, who was in her teen years, into the line and put Jordan in a sit and lay down, and he was just, you know, nothing was phasing him. But I didn't want an altercation with the dog that was barking his head off and causing havoc because he saw Jordan. Obviously not a service animal. So if you have a dog and if you have a pet, please remember that you need to be aware of the fact that when you take them into places, it says, yes, you can have your dog in the stores. You may come across a service animal that's trying to do a job. And you could be distracting that dog from doing what it needs to do for just a second. It's not supposed to, but it's still at the end of the day a dog.
And another thing I want to say, if you see someone with the service animal, please not. One thing I
Yes.
want to remind everyone that you do not pet the service animal.
You pretend they're a piece of medical equipment, clearly.
Yeah, yeah. One thing you do not want to do with pets because you don't know what because the animal's working and you don't know what the handler might not want you to pet the animal.
We had just gotten done planning my grandmother's memorial service, and we went into this restaurant with Jordan. We were sitting there waiting, and this little boy just ran right across the hall, right across. We were sitting like waiting to sit in the place. Just ran right across, and his mother said, "Oh, so and so, look at the precious doggy." And I said to her, "Ma'am, you would be smart to teach your son that when he sees a service animal that he is to totally ignore it." And she said, "Well, he did." And I said, "Yes, but you didn't." She didn't like me too much, but it was the truth. She's teaching her dog to notice the service animal instead of doing what the child did, which was totally ignoring the dog. We had people come up and try and literally put their hands, on Jordan and pet him. And I would have to say, "Excuse me, he's working." People would get offended when I was taking him out. My daughter was in school. She didn't need him. She went to a very small school. She didn't need him at school. And so if I was taking him out and we were training with him and she wasn't around, people would come up and say, "Can I pet him?" Because we allow people to pet, because in an autism world, it's a connection between the world and so forth and people. But if she wasn't there, the answer was automatically no, because it's her dog, and no, I'm not going to give you permission because she's not here to do it. And people would even get offended when my daughter would say, "Can I pet your dog?" And she'd go, "No, Mom, I can't handle it." And they would actually be upset with her because she was overwhelmed and she couldn't take it. It was like, sorry. It just amazes me.
Yeah, and let me tell you, where I'm from in New Mexico. New Mexico is very tough with ADA. When it comes to ADA, they're so tough. You got the disability rights. Like, they don't mess around. Like, you discriminate, you violate ADA, guess what? They're just gonna shut you down and give you a hefty fine, and they don't care.
Yep.
Because New Mexico is all about protecting your disability rights. They don't care about the business. If they go bankrupt or whatever, if they lose money.
Yeah.
Because I had a friend of mine who had a service dog. She went into this Chinese restaurant. They denied her entry. Oh boy, she got disability rights, and guess what? That restaurant got shut down.
So they need to, they're not if they're violating it, that's exactly what should happen.
Yeah.
So, and
they don't give
yeah.
second chance.
No, if they're not doing the ADA law, yeah. And Smoky Mountain Blessed. I get that it may take more views, and that's fine. But I also just have to say, okay, God, it's all in your hands. It'll all come when it's supposed to happen. And if I can find an agency that would work with me to be able to say, yeah, you could keep Mocha without a problem, then I would go that route. It's just finding it. And there's one locally here that I found that may be a little bit less than, that. But in my way of looking at it, when it comes to service animals too, we've got to find a way to get the cost to not be that way, because nobody should have to not have an animal that needs an animal.
Right.
And
And I'll tell you one thing, in New Mexico, you're prohibited from asking if it's a service dog completely. You're not supposed to ask any questions at all. In New Mexico.
Too many people they're going on, and you can go on Amazon, you can buy a vest, you can put it on your dog, and say it's a service animal when it's not. And that, to me, We had people literally coming up when Christina had her dog saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, I want to do what you do with your daughter's dog and take my dog anywhere." And I said, "Well, what's the disability?" "Oh, I don't have one." So it's a felony, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
They didn't know that.
Yeah, but in New Mexico, they're so tough with ADA. Like businesses are prohibited from asking if it's a service dog in New Mexico. They're prohibited. In other states you could ask if it's a service dog and what if it assists you with your disability. Yeah, you could ask another state, but not in New Mexico. New Mexico, you ask those questions, oh boy, they're just gonna shut you down. Because New Mexico does not play around at all.
But I think too that we've got to do a better job of being able to determine if it's a legitimate service animal. We were
Right.
in my mom went with my daughter in a restaurant and placed the dog, and I mean I used to it was so amazing to watch. um you have a great night too, Jake. We'll probably be ending this very soon. I'm glad you subscribed, and hopefully you can subscribe to the other channels placed in the chat too as well and give them the support. But they went into a restaurant. I loved it when we used to get up and people would come in and go, "Oh, there's a dog actually there that they didn't see when they first came in." But my mom went into this restaurant, and underneath the table was Jordan did what he was supposed to, just went right under the table and laid right down. And you could hear from the back that one of the owners said, "Now that's how the difference between how you tell from a real service dog to a fake service dog,
Right.
because people bring in their dogs, they misbehave, and they don't act like they should, and then they give the dogs that are properly trained a bad rap,
Right.
and that's what happens."
Yeah, but let me tell you, last year I was in a work related event. We went bowling from work, and I got into an accident where I tripped and fell over a dog. And the lighting condition, the bowling alley were very poor.
Was it an actual service dog?
Um, not that I know of. But the dog just, I didn't see the dog get up and move around. I just tripped over him. Because I was grabbing my food and all that, getting on my way to go sit down. But when I tripped over, I lost everything. Lost my food I had.
Well, hopefully they gave you new fresh food.
Oh yeah, yeah, but it wasn't good because I had to deal with the loss prevention. Getting all the paperwork, the incident report from our company, and then also from the bowling alley.
But the dog wasn't. But the dog should be under the table. That's where they should be when they're in a restaurant if they're a legit service animal.
Right.
You know. So
So apparently the dog was, from what they saw, that the dog was just wandering around.
well, that's not good.
Right. Which I didn't see the dog.
Well, if the dog wasn't, if a service animal goes into a place, they're usually put in a sit and stay position,
Right.
and they're not walking around usually.
Right.
But you know,
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been a lot worse.
well, of course,
Because what if the dog would have turned around and bite me for tripping over him?
exactly.
Then I would have been in a lot worse trouble.
Absolutely.
And then not only that, since that accident, I had to be dealing with the loss prevention from work for these 2 months. have to be following up with them, make sure that they want to make sure I'm okay, and then deal with the workman comp.
Well, that's not fun. I'm
No,
sure.
because I had to deal with the workman compensation office. The guy who in our company who was in charge of the workman comp, they had to follow up with me for at least 2 months every week. Thankfully, it was only a minor bruise, but for the company I work with, any accident they take it very seriously.
Well, of course.
Any accident you're involved, they take it pretty seriously, no matter how minor it is. You dealing with loss prevention and the workman compensation.
Was that at your work?
Yeah,
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry that happened.
yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Oh no, I don't go to the bowling alley anymore.
I don't think I would be if that was the position. I haven't been to a bowling alley in years.
Yeah,
I
because
remember the
then
last
the
time I
next
went
day when I
bowling.
went to work, my manager called me into the office and said, to complete the rest of the paperwork.
I'm just glad you didn't break anything. I'm sure
Right?
you were sore after it, but I'm
Yeah,
glad you didn't break anything.
yeah. And then my manager go like, "Did you have your cane with you?" Yeah. And he said, "You want to make sure you have your cane with you at all times because I got kids that don't. I got like I had vision impaired kids that who don't like carrying their cane.
But
So
it's good that, it's good that you do because that just makes people aware,
right.
you know.
But I know other kids that don't like carrying their cane because they feel embarrassed or whatever. But you know what? That's a safety.
Well, I remember that was one of Christina's things about Jordan was she was like, "Well, I don't want people to look at me different because we have a service animal." And I remember going out and thinking people would look at her differently because we had the dog and the vest and stuff. And after a while, I really didn't care
Right.
because we were able to do things and go out to places that without Jordan, we weren't able to do, because she was getting too overwhelmed in certain places.
Right.
Like we could go to Walmart, we could go to the grocery store because she could handle it so much better with Jordan.
Right.
So you're showing the kids by using your cane that what, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. I'm doing that because it's a safety issue.
Yeah. Because I know one girl from our company. She doesn't use a cane. She's blind, and I tell you what, just because she still sees and all that, but she don't understand that her limited vision it could be a safety hazard not having a white cane. But she says she's embarrassed because she gets bullied by customers at the store. It doesn't matter.
Oh, that's not nice.
And when you have a problem like that, tell your manager.
Yep.
If you got a problem, tell your manager. They'll take care of it.
That's not good. That's not very nice.
No.
I don't like people
This,
getting bullied.
yeah, this because she's trying to tell me not to carry my cane because she said you're gonna get bullied. Well, you know what? That's a safety. If I don't
Yep.
have my cane, I'm putting myself and others at risk.
Absolutely. So you're being an example, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
keep it up.
Not carrying a white cane while you're vision impaired. You're putting yourself and others at risk.
Not a good thing. I'm glad you're carrying it and being an example for people to say, listen, um, you need to do what's safe and not worry about other people. And if other people want to be mean and not do what's nice, then shame on them.
Right. But I just tell you, it's it's a safety, not having a major safety concern, not having a cane, because you think you don't need it, but you might run into something and fall into a pothole or a crack, and there you go, fall and break your bone.
Would you ever think about getting a service dog?
I thought about it, but I feel it's too much of a hassle, with so much discrimination going around.
I think probably you could. It may be something as you get older that you may need. Don't
Right,
totally rule it out. And there are agencies, especially, I mean, we have a circumstance with Demokas that leads us to having to do it a certain way that we would otherwise not have to do it. But, you know, just don't rule it out totally,
right,
because it may be something that down the road may be helpful for you.
right. Yeah, a service dog for the blind, I heard that's more expensive than a regular service dog. A service dog for the blind, they go through more intensive training than a regular service animal.
They do, but they have a lot more help to fund it.
Yeah, from what I heard, they're way, way more expensive. You're looking around $50,000 to train
Yes.
a service dog for a blind person.
Yes, but they also, I got the top of your cupcake done while we've been talking.
Wow. And from what I learned, they go through stricter training.
Yes, they do. But if you ever, something you ever want to think about, please let me know and I'll see if I can find a way for it to happen for you
Right.
without the cost of it.
Yeah, then I have to think about the cost associated with having service animal, like the cost of food and all that too.
There's some place, it's not in the United States, that if you have a service animal, they will help you with the cost of it, of the food
Wow.
and all that kind of stuff, medical training. I'm like, yep. Because they become preventive. It's
Right.
like for my husband, if he gets a diabetic service dog, then it would be something that would be an asset for him. Because
Right.
if he was ever by himself and he passed out, that dog could have a device to dial 911 to let them know that he needed an instant medical attention, and the dog would alert 911 of that. So it becomes, and the dog actually is more, has
Right.
more of, um, it has more of, it has a better success rate in defining
Right.
um, his highs and lows than the technology he's
Oh
wearing.
yeah. Right.
So it becomes a preventive.
Right.
Do you like this blue? Can you see it?
Yeah. I
That's the
see the.
blue I'm going to use. A good
Okay.
blue for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Making sure that's going to be the bottom of your cupcake.
Okay. Edible
So,
cupcake.
yeah, that way when people say it's my birthday, you can say, I see, I raised my cupcake to you.
Yeah.
I raised the birthday cupcake for your channel.
Yeah.
So I've got several other ones, and it's just my little thank you to you because you didn't have to do that. It really, again, Alfonso, that record means you do not know how much it means. It was just
Wow.
such a treat.
Yeah,
And
that's
to
what I
me,
like. That's what I like to do for others. Like take their music, copy them, and put them on CDs for them and whatever. That's what I do for friends and
but
stuff like that.
without you doing it, it would have been lost.
Wow.
And that's what I didn't want Scott's music to be.
Right.
I like again. I had had the a camera at the time, I could have recorded so much of his music and him singing, but those were too expensive back then.
Oh yeah.
But
I remember 30 years ago, a camera was over $1,000.
yeah,
A video
believe me.
camera was over $1,000.
So it's my little way of having a little bit of him always. So I thank you, and I can pass that on, and I'm looking forward to telling him. I haven't been able to get a hold of him yet because You have to the place he's at. You have to either call them, and they have to get a message to Scott, and Scott uses his phone to say Google call whatever.
Right.
Um, but he hasn't called yet, so I can't wait to tell him.
Right.
I'm excited. I'm excited because I think it's something I'm sure he wanted to do.
Right.
Let's pass it on. So that's all I
Yeah,
can
but
do.
it's gonna be on its way pretty soon. As soon as I get that record back in the mail, you know.
I appreciate it tremendously. So
Yeah, like I said, like yeah, some of things I know my concern with the mail just takes time sometimes, but that was pretty quick.
yeah, I was. I was sitting there going, "Oh Lord, please," because you called me saying you need to make the label bigger, and I'm like, it's already gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it made it. We said at the end, right? Lord's got this one, right?
Yeah.
He's got it. But it's getting to be over here. It's been 12:07 already, and you've been on for about 2.5 hours.
Wow. Well, I guess I'm gonna close out with Do Lord.
Beautiful. And let's
Thank
be
you.
nice to each other this week.
Yep.
Let's be nice and kind and help each other. That's what it's all about, right?
Yep. That's correct.
And I'm going to send you a channel. My other's keeper. I will be on her channel on the 9th.
Okay.
But that may be a chance. She wants to. Her name is Kim Alfonso.
Okay.
And if you go to my description in my videos, you'll find it because she would love to talk with you too.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
She's a
Thank you.
sweetheart.
All right. Thank you.
So you have a good week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Stay connected.